Let's go. So, our summary of our problem and what we did. So, our group was established because we all shared an interest in mental health and we wanted to do a project and that addresses mental health. So, our question policy ended up being what should be done to combat the decline of mental health among young adults ages 18 through 27 years old in California with regard to the use of social media. And we ultimately settled upon this because social media use among young adults in California has led to observable mental health issues. And that trend has only increased over time, not just in relation to COVID 19, but mental health issues can have an adverse effect on one's future and can develop into serious problems. And mental health issues as a result of specifically social media use have become widespread in California. And disorders such as anxiety and loneliness have been linked to specific social media platforms and their, their, okay, but anyway, sorry. Even though the problem is widespread among young adults in California, most people who do suffer from these mental health afflictions remain undiagnosed and have not received any treatment. So ultimately, what we ended up doing to combat this and try to make a difference for this was our group was allowed to spread awareness and information as part of an event led by the West Valley College Campus Activities Board about mental health. During an hour-long event, which featured faculty and professional speakers well-versed in the adverse effects of mental health, where they offered advice and information on how to receive aid on campus and from close family. So half of our group was able to stay during the hour-long event and gave insight into important aspects of our research and talked about the spread of mental health issues, the impact of social media, what California specifically has done as a state to combat this. And we also offered advice from studies in our research on how to effectively combat screen time use. So now I'm going to switch over to Jessica, where she can talk about the specifics of our final solution.
Yeah, so we chose our final solution as to do the mental health event with CAB because of some critical rationale that I will say right now. So first, that the event is online, and so it allows for social distancing, and all students can access it without problem during the COVID season and for professional help. So we thought it would be a widespread and open channel for everyone, and then the event also exists already with budget set aside, and we have a time set aside and Zoom link set aside as well for it. So we thought it would be really great to add our piece to this event as well, and it will also encourage conversations with mental health and the resources regarding it. And then we also had great research for final discussion, and so during our final discussion, we all thought that the data and the activities and the pieces of research basically that we gathered were quite helpful, and we wanted to share that with people. So we decided that we can go ahead and present these information at the event to students so that they can also be informed by our research. And most importantly, this event is honestly just to spread the awareness and to inform people. Since this event is a campus-wide advertised event, it both increases it both reminds people like, hey, take care of your mental health when finals are coming up. And then with all of these great tips and research and speakers that we have invited into this event. So yeah, that's basically the critical rationale that we had for selecting our solution. And now I will talk a little bit about implementation of the event. So first, we met on November 5th from 1 to 2 p.m. Yeah, and so we met with CAB in this event. We solidified the speakers for the event and clarified the advertising, the promotional materials, and how to advertise. We also created the schedule for the event, and then we started creating the Kahoot for the competition at the end to make the event a bit more fun, and also adding some reward for the participants at the end. And then step 2, we met on December 2nd from 1 to 1:30 p.m. We finished the Kahoot, and then we clarified what evidence and social media replacement we wanted to share in our presentation. And now I'll pass it on to Mackenzie to cover the rest of our implementation.
Perfect. Thank you so much. So this was implementation step 2, as Jessica had stated. And then now we're going to go in step 3, which was actually our solution taking place, our mental health awareness event on December 3rd from 6. And it was supposed to end at 7 o'clock, but it did end at 7:10 p.m., which is totally fine. Here are some photos. This does not exemplify all of the people in attendance, but it does show just some of the people who I was able to fit on the first page when taking a screenshot of the Zoom call. I did ask for permission first, and this is the official flyer for the event as well. So the goal of the event was to spread awareness of mental health in young adults, because our research told us that in California, as Cole mentioned, it often goes undiagnosed. And this way we were able to provide resources for West Valley students to help them manage mental health and find support necessary to learn ways to decrease social media usage and to build ultimately community online. So our speakers included, first was George McGillis. I apologize if that is not how his name was pronounced, his last name. He goes by his first name, which is George, and he is with West Valley Student Health Services. He spoke on behalf of personal counseling, weekly support groups, community resources, and how to distinguish a healthy versus unhealthy relationship. He spoke just for a brief 10 minutes from 6 to 6:10 p.m., but ultimately covered all of the resources that West Valley has to offer for West Valley students. And that is provided in our health fee, that $20 fee we pay with our classes. And ultimately, we just wanted students to be aware of what resources West Valley has to support them. Next, we had the Active Minds Club with President Connie Rodriguez, who spoke. She didn't have her camera on, but that's okay. So she talked about mental health support that the club provided during the fall semester and what they intend on doing in the spring semester, along with different membership benefits. She spoke for another 5 minutes, and she shared her own slideshow presentation, which I screenshotted here in this photograph. So she talked about the officers, just all of the resources that they have to provide, and was hoping to find more people to join this club, because this club is a great resource to help support you in your mental health journey. And then we had speaker, professional West Valley counselor, Christina Llerena, and she talked about 10 quick strategies to manage anxiety and discomfort. She had a wide variety of cool Zoom activities. We went into breakout rooms where we actually talked about what we do for ourselves to decrease our stress during finals time. And we also did a waterfall captioning or chatting, whatever it was called. Particularly, I believe there are different names she used, where we actually talked about different people that support us when we are stressed. And with these ways, we found 10 quick strategies, one of which was ensuring that we have a lot of sleep, and another one is ensuring that we're letting other people know in our lives what we're doing so that they cannot expect too much of us, so that we can focus our time and energy on our finals. And this, regardless if you have a mental illness or not. This stress and anxiety is something that is commonplace to all students during this time. And she spoke from 6:15 to 6:45. And finally, before our last thing, which was our Kahoots, Cole, myself, and Jessica shared our 2 most prominent pieces of evidence from our research and final discussion. So here's Cole with his awesome background he has here today. And here's another picture with one of the demographics that Jessica was able to share during the event, which discusses loneliness or smoking, which is worse for your health. So all of these, we're just able to share some of the research that we took a lot of time to find. And ultimately, we can't share any evidence, or well, we can share evidence, but not any solutions, and tell people what to do to solve their mental health. We're not mental health professionals, but we can find research from mental health professionals to help people decrease their social media usage, because it is something that has been shown to decrease communication and increase loneliness. And here's our quantifiable outcome. So we had 14 attendees, excluding those a part of the event, which were 10 people. So a whopping 24 total people who attended this event. We had 21 total resources that we provided to the attendees who did primarily reside in our demographic of young adults, which was 18 to 27 years old in California. So we were able to reach the people that we targeted for our problem for 100% total success for this event. And that was the final part of our implementation. I will go ahead and pass the mic off to Jay, who will discuss our conflict. Thank you.
Thank you, Mackenzie. So as in any group, we did face some conflict. However, it is with great appreciation for my team that I can say that none of our conflict was interpersonal, which I think is a nice accomplishment in itself. However, we did still face some conflict, the first being substantive conflict, which actually had to do with our question of policy. Cole said it earlier, but just to restate, our question of policy was, what should be done to combat the decline of mental health among young adults ages 18 to 27 in California in regards to the use of media? So our demographic was labeled as young adults, 18 to 27 in California. And I think we found that in the world of research, those were pretty specific requirements. We could find research about young adults, but they weren't in California. Or we could find research about California, but it wasn't young adults. And we had a quick solution to this conflict, and that was just collaboration. We had a shared Google Doc that we had our problem and our question of policy, and we're also keeping meeting minutes there. And I believe it was Mackenzie started this big list of all these links to research. And through that, we were able to go in, pull out some stuff that interested us, mix it in with some of our own research. And so through that, our research was communal. However, it was unique to ourselves, and we weren't just all saying the same thing. Secondly, we ran into some procedural conflict early on. In terms of getting a hold of each other outside of class. Of course, the kind of immediate assumption would be, we could do a group chat. We've been over in New Zealand. We couldn't do a group chat. We explored a couple of apps and couldn't really find one that fit us. So we opted for Canvas emails. And so the conflict came to play when not a lot of people check their Canvas emails. And so once again, quick solution to that conflict. People just started checking their emails more often. And that's something that helped us within our group with communication. That's also something that's going to really help us in classes moving forward. So it's something that's really going to have a lasting impression and it's going to help us out in the long run in our college career. After that, we had some more procedural contract that had to do with, we had a scheduled meeting for the 25th of November. It was a Wednesday. And it was, I believe our first meeting after we finalized our question of policy. And it just kind of fell apart and didn't end up being what we needed it to be. We had a lot of scheduling conflicts. A lot of us have a lot of commitments. I work very early in the morning. I have to go to bed early. I know Mackenzie works. Brooke also works. Brooke is very involved in her church. Ben's literally 21 hours ahead. I know Cole ran into some issues with his power being randomly shut off. Jessica, along with so many others of us, have multiple other classes to attend. And on top of that, given that it's the holidays, a lot of us have family commitments. So while there was no real recipe for fixing this conflict of the scheduling, we did find that the quality of our meeting minutes made it very easy that should we miss a meeting, we can go in and see exactly what was talked about and exactly what we need to work on going forward. And with those email skills that I talked about previously, if we had to send an email to delegate certain tasks, they were very quick and they were concise and they were explained everything that we needed to know moving forward, what we needed to get done, when we needed to get done, and it made missing meetings very easy to figure out exactly what we needed to do after that. All of our conflicts were resolved with teamwork and collaboration. None of them were interpersonal. And I'd say that's a success. And with that, I'd love to pass it off to Ben.
Great, thanks, Jay. So with our group strengths, one of the most prominent things that we had was our leadership. And Mackenzie, she provided structure for all of us to participate. She's a great leader and helped us, gather around the campfire, so to speak. Collectively, overview emails and communication was fantastic across the board. And our communication was very good. We were very timely with our emails, and we were very cooperative with each other. As I'm sure you can tell already, there are a lot of us in the group that are very, very easygoing. So it was very easy to make things, they just kind of fell into place sometimes, and it was very easy, and nothing really became too stressful. So this was another huge strength. And furthermore, we have had amazing group chemistry. We get along really well, and never really too nervous, and especially to share ideas. Something that I think really stood out to us was Jessica is a really naturally born leader, and she did an astounding job at keeping our group on track. And then we all think that's amazing. As I'm sure you can tell, Jay adds all the personality of the group. He keeps us in check and he cracks jokes all the time. He's a funny guy. Brooke has had an immensely difficult time, yet she has been able to maintain her dedication to the group, and that is something that I think is fantastic and in itself is tremendous. And Jay said earlier, I live in a different country, so sometimes that can be difficult getting myself to meeting or whatever it is on time or doing things. So these are all just collectively group strengths. And on that note, I'm going to pass it off to the Brooke for the overall learnings.
Thanks, Ben. I think there is quite a few things that we learned overall, but I'll go over a few of them. First being that I think a lot of us were obviously interested in mental health and especially amongst young adults, but then focusing in on research, I think we probably wouldn't have done that on our own time outside of this class, or maybe not as quite detailed as we did. And so I think all of us, of course, learned a lot more about mental health amongst adults than we knew before, which I think is really cool. And then next, I think obviously with the times of COVID and everything that's going on, we've become a lot more accustomed to Zoom and just technological things that we've been working through. I think we learned a lot about what tech can do for us. And then next, I think that we learned that obviously through some of the conflicts that we've gone through, that we learned that group work isn't, super easy at all times, but it takes a lot more patience and collaboration. It's super rewarding, especially with COVID, like working through all these different conflicts that are coming about. I think it's just working through all that. We've learned a lot. And then I think we've learned a lot about like group dynamics and learning how to let people follow or let people lead, and just kind of that back and forth and ebb and flow of figuring out, when to step back and let someone else lead, and when to, step up and be the leader. And I think lastly, and most importantly, I think we learned a lot about how I think you can't just solve mental health. You can't just there's not one say all. We can't change that about the world, right now. So I think it's really cool that we learned that we can, if we put our minds to it, really make a small difference like we did at West Valley. I think really with our event, we don't know what that did for people, but it could have changed one person's life very dramatically. And if that's what happened, then we're doing the right thing. So yeah.
Yay.
Thanks, everybody.
Okay, I'm going to stop recording.
Right.